Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the DubsIn4 podcast. This is episode 10. We're on week 10 finally. Been going good for a little while now, so that feels pretty good. But here we are, week 10, and we're going to be continuing with our division overview series this week. And I decided that I'm going to give a little 2-in-1 today because of the whole Jimmy Butler situation going around. With Jimmy Butler requesting a trade out of Minnesota, and it's looking like it's going to happen. They want it to be resolved, within the next day or two. So, what I decided to do is I had two divisions left that we have not covered yet. I'm just going to do them both today, and then so that I did that preemptively, so that next week you can talk about Jimmy Butler, assuming that trade does go down pretty soon. So yeah, next week we'll be able to talk about the Jimmy Butler trade, if it does indeed happen, which is looking like it's going to, and also talk about the start of the preseason, media week, stuff like that. So I just want to get these last two divisions out of the way, just all in one right now, so that I can kind of start moving into the season, because we are starting the season very soon. Media day for the Warriors is tomorrow. Pretty much every team is having their media day this week. So, yeah, and then Jimmy Butler trade is going to happen pretty quick here, which is going to be exciting. So, we'll talk about the impact of that. But anyway, today we're going to be covering the last two divisions, which are the Central Division and the Southeast Division, both of the Eastern Conference. So, we're just going to be going over these teams, recap of their offseason, what we're expecting from them for this year. You guys know the drill by now. So, let's move into the Central Division first. We're going to be talking about the Central Division. I just said that, but that's okay. Number one, I have the best team in this division is the Bucks. This one was hard for me to pick. These top two teams, I have them very, very close. When I talked about my playoff predictions and Eastern Conference power rankings and stuff, I had the Bucks as my 4 seed, Pacers as my 5 seed, and I have that going 7 games. I think these two teams are going to meet in the first round. Division rivals will play each other. That'll be exciting to see if that does indeed happen. But I have the Bucks just barely edging out the Pacers here. I just think the star power of Giannis Antetokounmpo, coupled with their new additions of Brook Lopez, Dante DiVincenzo through the draft, I think their team composition is finally starting to come around. With Chris Middleton, Thon Maker, Malcolm Brogdon, all these other guys. They're nice pieces around Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think this is going to be a better team next year. Giannis is only improving. He's starting to establish himself as, top 5 player in the league, maybe. Some would argue him as top 5. Personally, I don't have him in there. I think I have him in my top 10, not in my top 5. But either way, very good player. I think this is a very good team. And just because they have that, superstar that the Pacers don't, I have to edge them over the Pacers a little bit here, even though the Pacers had a really nice offseason and I really like their team. We're going to move and talk about them now. I think they're very, very close to the Bucks, but they're this very similar team to last year, but they've added now Tyreke Evans, Kyle O'Quinn, Doug McDermott, and they've drafted Aaron Holiday. All of those players, I think, are really nice fits for their team. Needed a little bit more three-point shooting. They've obtained that now. Doug McDermott's a pretty good shooter. Aaron Holiday, Tyreke Evans are, all serviceable from 3. Kyle O'Quinn is a really nice backup center. Aaron Holiday, good, nice young point guard. He'll be able to help out a little bit. And then they still have Victor Oladipo. Assuming that last year wasn't a fluke for him, he'll be able to, continue his production from last year, his somewhat surprising kind of breakout year for him. We'll see if he can continue that in year 2 with Indiana. So it's looking like, these Pacers are a pretty good team, and they had a really nice offseason. I don't have them quite over the Bucks just yet. I think this could go either way, and I have this as my 4-5 matchup. But either way, it'll be cool. I would not be surprised at all if the Pacers ended up, seeding higher or beating the Bucks in the playoffs this year or whatever. But right now I have the Bucks up over them. Moving into third, I have the Detroit Pistons here. Pretty much after those two teams, it's kind of a little bit of a drop-off here. Pistons are okay. They might make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, but they didn't really do much in the offseason to convince me otherwise. The only thing that they really have going for him here is this is year 2 with Blake Griffin. Maybe he'll, understand the playbook a little bit better, understand the system, be able to produce a little bit better than he did in his, about half a season he had with Detroit last year. Year 2 with Blake Griffin, but other than that, they really didn't change too much about the team. They didn't have a first-round pick because they traded it for Blake Griffin. So, not really sure how this team is going to look next year. If they make another move, which I think they should be, trying to get into that Jimmy Butler sweepstakes maybe, see if there's any other, decent players available on the trade market. I think this team needs to try to make a splash here, and if they don't, they should just try to tear it down and rebuild. The problem is they traded for Blake Griffin, and he still has like 4 years left on his deal, and they're paying him a lot of money, well into his 30s. So I don't know how much I like that trade for them, but if it happened, it's been in the past now. So we'll see. But this team, not really sure the direction they have right now. It's kind of interesting just to see where they're going to end up. But they have fired Stan Van Gundy. So hopefully that will be nice for them. He didn't really do great. And I don't know how much I like the Blake Griffin trade for them, like I mentioned. That was all Van Gundy's job. But he is now no longer their coach. I almost forgot about that, if I'm honest. Who did they even replace him with? Let me just look this up real fast. Oh, yeah, Dwayne Casey. Duh, Ethan. Thank you. He was coach of the year. Yeah, that'll be interesting. New year of Dwayne Casey. That's a little bit different for them than... I don't know. They're a different team with obviously a better coach. I think he's a better coach, but the players on the roster have not changed much. But we'll see. We will see. Right now I have them as third in the Central Division. Okay, we're gonna move on. I spent way too long on the Pistons. Sorry about that. Not knowing that Dwayne Casey was their coach. Total. I don't know. It's the off season. I haven't thought about the Pistons in a long time. Who's thought about the Pistons lately? Let's be honest. All right, we've got the Cavs at number 4. I think there is a chance that the Cavs are actually better than the Pistons next year, especially if they get in that Jimmy Butler sweepstakes. There was a rumor this morning that they were making trade offers for Jimmy. We'll see if that actually comes to light. If it does, that would be nice for them. He's a good player. Him alongside Kevin Love would be pretty cool. But as of right now, they have lost LeBron James, and they still have Kevin Love. Rodney Hood is re-signed now. They've drafted Colin Sexton. J.R. Smith, the Henny God, he's back for another year. Other than that, like other than LeBron leaving, this team is relatively the same as last year. And without LeBron, they're pretty mediocre. Sexton should be okay as their point guard. But I don't know. The Cavs could be okay. If Kevin Love reverts back to his Minnesota Timberwolves days, then they could be in business, because he was a beast back in the day when he was the only star on the Timberwolves. He was lighting it up on scoring, rebounding, everything, giving you 20 and 10 at least every night. So we'll see if Kevin Love goes back to his old self and starts to produce again, or if they end up deciding they want to trade him, even though I believe they did sign him to an extension just recently. So we'll see if they do want to trade Kevin Love or whatever. But, yeah, that'll be interesting to see how he plays on his own with this roster in Cleveland. But, yeah, the Cavs could be okay this year. I think a lot of people are predicting them to be terrible, and I don't think that'll be the case. They still have a really nice player, Kevin Love, all-star. They have some decent pieces around him, so we'll see. And the last place in this division, I have the Chicago Bulls. They are still a really, really young team. Lauri Markkanen, Chris Dunn, Zach LaVine back on a pretty expensive deal, but they did also draft Wendell Carter Jr. The Bulls they'll be better than last year, I think, just because their young players are, getting a year older, more development. Also, Wendell Carter Jr. will be pretty good for them. But we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening with Chicago. I think in a couple of years, this team will be okay. But right now, they're just kind of looking to get another high draft pick. I think one more high draft pick, and they can get, I don't know, maybe another point guard to pair with Chris Dunn. Zach LaVine at shooting guard. I don't know. I don't really know what they need. If they're playing Lowry at power forward, maybe a small forward, I guess. We'll see. Honestly, they should probably just take the best player available when they get to the draft. It just depends on where they're picking and who's available there. But I think they need one more piece, and then they can kind of start trying to win. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with the Bulls. I think they're going to be better than they were last season. But I have them as last place in this division just because these other teams have established stars on them. All these teams do. You have Giannis Antetokounmpo, Victor Oladipo, Blake Griffin, Kevin Love. And then, on this Bulls team, there's really not a player of that caliber. So I have them below all these guys, but realistically, they could actually be a pretty decent team. I wouldn't be shocked if they made the playoffs. I don't think it'll happen, but I wouldn't be absolutely shocked if that did happen. Okay, moving into the Southeast Division. This division is probably the worst in the league, I would say. Not very good here. There's really only one, maybe two good teams in this division. But at number one here, I have the Washington Wizards. They had a pretty nice offseason, adding Dwight Howard, Jeff Green, drafting Troy Brown. They traded Marcin Gortat for Austin Rivers. So this will be a little bit of a new look for this Wizards team. If John Wall, Bradley Beal can stay healthy, then they will be. They'll have a better season than they did last year. Last year they kind of struggled. John Wall was hurt for a little while. They struggled with chemistry issues, injury issues, stuff like that. Last year wasn't the best for this team. They're hoping they can rebound this season with a strong year from John Wall and Bradley Beal. Again, they're two all-star backcourt guards. But other than that, they have added Austin Rivers as a nice piece off the bench. Troy Brown, not really sure how I feel about that draft pick. He's a good player, but not really sure if they needed another guard. They could have gone with a big man or a forward there. Jeff Green's a nice signing, and Dwight Howard is good too. I think Dwight Howard's a pretty nice upgrade over Gortat at center. Personally, I don't like Gortat a lot. That's just me though. But Dwight Howard is a better player. I don't think that's really a question there. But yeah, getting rid of Gortat, adding Austin Rivers, that's an interesting move. We'll see if he'll be able to produce there, after he was traded away by his dad. That'll cause some tension at family dinner. But we've got the Wizards up here. We'll see how they end up doing this year. But if they manage to stay healthy, I think they'll have a better season for sure. Number two, I have the Miami Heat. They are a very, very similar team to last year. Didn't really make many moves in the offseason. Didn't have a first-round pick. So, they're pretty much the same exact team as they were last season. They have been mentioned a lot in the Jimmy Butler trade, though. It looks like they're making a push to acquire Jimmy Butler, and if that does end up happening, that'll be pretty significant for them. If they can pair him alongside Goran Dragic and a bunch of these other pretty. They have like a lot of these average NBA players, right? Like, I don't know, Justice Winslow, Tyler Johnson. Dragic is above average, but he's still not great. Hassan Whiteside's okay. I mean, a couple of these players would be included in a Jimmy Butler trade if it were to happen. But I don't know. I don't really know what the T-Wolves would want from the Heat, other than just draft picks. They don't really have a lot of like great young players that the Timberwolves would want. Maybe Justice Winslow, but I don't know if his upside is he has a nice upside, but he hasn't looked super great his first couple seasons. So we'll see. But if they do acquire Jimmy Butler, that may be enough to push them over the Wizards here, but it depends on what they would give up for him. But obviously getting a player like Jimmy Butler will make your team better, so we'll see if that does end up happening. But for right now, the Heat, unfortunately, I think they're missing the playoffs. They did have Dwayne Wade coming back for another year, though. That did happen. Dwayne Wade has agreed for one more year for the Miami Heat, which is cool. A little bit of a farewell tour for him. Love D-Wade, so that's nice. Get one more season. And if they do get Jimmy Butler to play for him, Dwayne Wade and Jimmy Butler are good friends, so that would be cool. But we'll see if that does end up happening. Okay, moving on. Number 3, we have the Charlotte Hornets. Man, I don't know what these Hornets are doing. Honestly, like their team, they are paying so much money for these marginal guys, these like below average or average NBA players got these huge contracts a couple of years ago. They're paying Nick Batum a ton of money. Other than that, I think they have Bismack Biyombo on the roster now after a couple trades. They have, I don't know. I don't even know anymore. They're paying all these guys so much money, and it's like, why? But they did draft Miles Bridges in the draft. He'll be okay for them. He was a nice player in college. We'll see how he produces coming into the pros, but maybe he'll be able to develop into something nice for them. Actually, it might have been Michael Bridges. Am I totally wrong? It was one of the Bridges. I'm just going to Google this. Is it Mikal Bridges? Nope, he's the one on the Suns. Cool. I'll have to get that straight. But I can never remember which one is which. But yes, Miles Bridges is on the Hornets. So that'll be interesting. But they kind of just need to do a total teardown, get rid of as many of these bad contracts as they can, or I guess just wait them out. I think probably after this year they'll get a couple of them off the books. I think in 2 seasons all their bad contracts will be gone. We'll see if they end up trading Kemba Walker this year. He's not making too much money. It's a very tradable contract, and he's a nice player. But it seems like they don't want to do that. We've had Kemba trade rumors for a couple years now, and it doesn't seem like Michael Jordan is going to be willing to trade Kemba. But we'll see. Anything can happen. If they start, really struggling, I could see them definitely trying to move on from Kemba. But I hope they do. He deserves better. He deserves to play with other good players and be in title contention. I'm not sure what team would try to make a deal for him, but hopefully that does happen, because I don't think he wants to be on the Hornets much longer. I don't think anyone wants him to be on the Hornets much longer, so I hope they do end up moving him. But anyway, moving on to number 4, I have the Atlanta Hawks, and that's how you know this division is bad, because the Hawks aren't even the worst team. They have drafted Trae Young. It is Trae time in Atlanta. Hopefully they end up starting him over Jeremy Lin, which they absolutely should. But, they're the Hawks, so they might not. But we'll see. They also drafted Kevin Huerter and Omari Spellman. We'll see what ends up happening with them. They got some nice, young players, John Collins still. So hopefully they have a nice season. They've got all these young guys, and in a couple of years it'll be cool. We'll see how Trae Young pans out. A lot of people are concerned about Trae Young. Personally, I like the pick. I don't know if I would have traded out of Luka Doncic to get him, but Trae Young is still very nice. And they added Jeremy Lin as well through a trade, but they do want to play their young guys as much as possible. Getting them those NBA minutes. Definitely want to stick with that young core. They've got 4 guys now. They've got John Collins, Trae Young, Kevin Huerter, and Omari Spellman. Actually make that 5. They have Taurean Prince as well. So, this team... Oh, and they also added Alex Len in the offseason. From the Suns, added Alex Len. So that's kind of interesting. They'll be okay. I think they're going to be better than last year for sure. Depends on how well Trae Young plays, but I'm excited to see him. I got to see him play live at the Jazz Summer League. That was really cool. He was one of my favorite players to watch in college, and I hope he has a nice NBA career. He's always super fun to watch. People compare him to Steph Curry. That's why I like him. But we'll see what happens. But hopefully the Hawks play well this year. It would be really exciting if Trae starts to light it up. Moving on. I have the Magic at number 5. Orlando Magic, I think, are among the worst team in the league. I don't think they're worse than the Kings, but they are pretty bad. They drafted Mo Bamba, and that kind of makes me sad because I love Mo Bamba. I loved him in college. I think he's going to be awesome, but he had to go to the Magic. I don't know. It just kind of sucks because the Magic have a reputation for kind of ruining all their draft picks. But I do hope Bamba has a nice career. Maybe he can kind of break that curse, turn their franchise around a little bit. Other than him, they didn't really make many moves. I was hoping they would sign Isaiah Thomas, man. I was really hoping they would sign Isaiah Thomas. Who is their point guard? Who is going to play point guard for the Orlando Magic? No one knows. No one knows who's going to play point guard. I don't know if they have any point guards on their roster. Fournier's not really a point guard. Even if he is, he's not that good. So, what are they going to do? I don't know. I was hoping they would get Isaiah Thomas. But looks like they didn't offer him a contract, which is weird because he accepted a minimum deal from the Nuggets, which if the Magic had offered him any more than that, I think he probably would have taken it. Or or unless he really wanted to play for a contender, which maybe. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the direction of this Magic team. They don't seem very good. They have new head coach Steve Clifford, which I didn't really like him in Charlotte, so I don't really like him in Orlando either. This team has just been bad for years now. I really hope Mo Bamba can turn them around. Hopefully they give him the playing time he needs in order to develop and stuff, but their coaching staff doesn't have a reputation for developing players. They haven't had a good player since Dwight Howard, so I don't know, man. I don't know about Orlando. Unfortunate, because I really hope Bamba succeeds, but we'll have to see what ends up happening. It'll be tough to judge him even after just 1 year. But I do hope he plays well. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling. I don't know if this is my best episode, but we're going to roll with it. So yeah, those are the two last divisions, Central and Southeast. So anticipating a Jimmy Butler trade this week, we'll be talking about that next Sunday. If that doesn't happen, then we'll just talk about whatever I want to talk about that happened in preseason or whatever. But yeah, so that's going to be it for today's episode. This was episode 10. I will see you guys next week, hopefully discussing Jimmy Butler. This has been the DubsIn4 podcast, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in.